Hey guys, welcome to Plasma Crab. Today we are finally doing a math video. I was so excited to do this for a while, and I'm very happy to start doing it now. So, in my calculus class, there's one question on this pretest. This is the question you see on screen right now, and I sort of did it the wrong way. Here, let's just rewrite it down here. X to the fourth y squared plus 2x squared y minus 1 is equal to 0. So, what this question was asking, it says identify the types of symmetry for this function, and the answer choices are A, about the x-axis, B, about the y-axis, C, about the origin, D, both A and B, and E, none of these. And so, there was a very easy way to do this. All you had to do, to normally test the type of symmetry on a function, you would just take that function and plug in negative x as the input. So in this case, you would get negative x raised to the fourth times y squared plus 2 times, again, negative x squared y minus 1 is equal to 0. Nope, never mind, ignore that. And then you just sort of simplify. So we can see that both of the powers for these x values are even, so we know right away that the x's will just end up being positive anyways. So it's going to end up being x to the fourth y squared plus 2 times x squared y minus 1, and that is the same as the original function, right? It's the same as just the normal f of x. And so when you get this result, that means that it's going to be an even function, or in other words, it's going to reflect across the y-axis. So we can see here that the answer is going to be B. But the method I did was way more complicated than that. And I used U-Substitution for this, so let's see how that happened. Okay, so now we have the equation copied down here, and so what we're going to do is we are going to do some U-Substitution as I explained earlier. So, the first thing I noticed was that for both of these two terms here, the x term, the exponent of the x term, I should say, is double the value of the y exponent. You see, for the left one, for the left term, you have x to the fourth y squared. The power of x is 4, and the power of y is 2. And then for the right term, you have the power of x is 2, and the power of y is 1. And so, I decided, hey, why not utilize this? So, here we're going to let u be equal to x squared. And so, what's going to happen is, what's x to the fourth? That's just the same as x squared squared, right? So, in other words, this is just going to be equal to u squared times y squared plus 2 times u times y minus 1, and that's equal to 0. So now the equation is a little bit more convenient for us, because as you can see for these terms, this is the same as uy squared. Both of these now have, the variables here now have a shared power. Here you have uy, both of these are raised to the second power, and for here, both of these are raised to the first power. And so now this equation is a lot more convenient for us, and so it's still not convenient enough though, so we're going to do another substitution. We're going to let v be equal to uy. And so when we substitute that in, we're going to get v squared plus 2v minus 1 is equal to 0. And so, as you can see here, we now have a quadratic equation. And we know how to solve this. Let's just do the quadratic formula, because this can't be factored. So, we're going to get v is equal to, let's see if we can remember this, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Alright, perfect. Now we just need to substitute the values in. So this is just a 1 in front of the v squared. So we can just have like a little tag for each one, so we could just substitute them in. We know that the a value is 1. We know that the b value is 2, and the c value is -1. So now let's substitute all these values in. So we're going to get negative b, which is going to be 2, plus or minus the square root of b, which is again 2, squared, minus 4a, which is 1, times c, which is -1. Let's extend the square root here. And that's going to be all over 2 times 1, because 1 is the a value. And now let's sort of try to simplify this. So here we're just going to have a -2, and then plus or minus the square root of 2 squared is the same as 4, and then you have a -4 times a -1. A negative times a negative is a positive, and so we're just going to have 4 times 1 times 1, which is the same as plus 4, and that's again going to be all over 2 times 1, which is 2. And so then we can add both of the 4's in here to get the square root of 8, and we can try to simplify this radical. Well, the square root of 8 is the same as the square root of 2 times the square root of 4, right? And we know that the square root of 4, well, 4 is a perfect square. We're going to get, instead of the square root of 4, we're going to get 2, and we still have that square root of 2 here. So we can simplify this square root part right here, because these two are equal. So we're going to get, and let's sort of do 2 steps at once here, because I'm sort of not having enough space. We can have the over 2 for both of these terms right here. So we're going to get -2 over 2 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 2 over 2. And so you can see here that the -2 and the +2 will just leave up, it'll just cancel out and have a -1 at the end. And then here we have a plus or minus 2 times the square root of 2 over 2. So we can just cancel these 2's out here as well, and we'll just be left with the square root of 2. So we're going to have -1 plus or minus the square root of 2 as our v value. Remember, this is equal to v, so we're not done yet. So now let's just take this over here. So now we have v is equal to -1, plus or minus the square root of 2. And if you remember correctly, we said that v is equal to uy. And so we can substitute that in. We're going to have uy is equal to -1 plus or minus the square root of 2. And we are still not done, because we have to substitute the u value in. Well, we know that u is equal to x squared. So let's substitute that in here. We're going to have x squared times the y again is equal to -1 plus or minus the square root of 2. And finally, well, our goal here was to solve for y, and then, well, my goal at least was to solve for y so that we can then plug in f of -x and see what we get. So let's just bring that up here. So to solve for y, all we have to do is divide by x squared on both sides, right? So let's do that. These x squares will cancel out, and we will just be left with y, that's a bad y, oh my god, that is a horrible y, and that's equal to -1 plus or minus the square root of 2 over x squared. And so now we can plug in the -x for the input, and then we will get -1 plus or minus the square root of 2 all over -x squared, and that, well, it's an even power, so it's just going to be x squared in the denominator. And again, we're going to have the -1 plus or minus the square root of 2. And would you look at that? That's the same as the regular f of x. And so we just proved that this is an even function, which means that it's going to reflect across the y-axis, which is how we got b as our answer. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. please give a thumbs up if you really enjoyed it. And why not subscribe, because I'll have some more videos like this, as well as some gaming and just some videos that we can have fun in. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, comments, or complaints, just let me know in the comments. Anyways, I hope you guys have an amazing day, and we'll see you back here in the next video.